Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind. Ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
All right, so we changed the format a little, Kyle, where we'll go through like all the market stuff first, then we'll do like a local thing, and then we're going to talk about a couple. We only got one new listing this week and a couple open houses, so it should be pretty straightforward. But it'll go longer, so we'll talk a lot about like will rates go lower. What would be good for you to talk about is the different products you have at lower rates. I think that's like really important. I don't think a lot of people even I tell people that on the phone, they're like, "You got to be kidding me!" Like,
what's that, like the PHF
jumbo, right? Like FHA, like.
And learn more at fightingblindness.org.
WWDB Philadelphia, the talk station.
The following programming is sponsored by Thomas Toole III. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect the station, its management, or Beasley Media Group.
Good afternoon, Greater Philadelphia area. This is Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB, 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Timon. He's Kyle Sutera with Cross Country Mortgage. And Sarah and I at least, work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. We're talking about the jobs report from last week. People are calling this a game-changing jobs report. That's why Kyle's here. We also had a Fed meeting last week, and there were some major revisions to the jobs report, and there's questions if rates are going to go even lower. That's why we have Kyle here. We've also got a segment about the deadliest roads to drive in the greater Philadelphia area, so make sure you buckle up. Traffic in Philadelphia rankings compared to other cities thanks to Consumer Affairs, and an update on the SEPTA talks, which could affect all the commute time. And we've got a great new listing and a couple open houses this weekend. So if you get some value out of this or you like what you hear, make sure to subscribe to the channel. You can hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to schedule a call with our team and talk to Sarah in particular, she's got many happy listeners. I know she's putting one of them under contract today. And someone that had reached out to us, make sure to click on the link in the comments, schedule a time with her. She's an absolute pro. So we had quite the mortgage news week last week, Kyle.
We did.
And Sarah had C-SPAN on, right? CNBC. What were you watching? I want to know. I'm kidding. Those are some of the most boring things to watch. It's brutal. But there was some significant news here that the Federal Reserve met. They, as expected, did not lower rates. However, since the first time since 1993, there was two governors. I'm assuming it's Bowman and Waller. Those were the two I would guess because they came out and spoke negatively about the decision the last time that did not vote with the Fed. So before we get into the jobs report and everything else, Kyle, I'd love to get your reaction on the divergence in voting as a unit for the first time since 1993 for the Federal Reserve when it comes to a rate decision.
Yeah, I think it means the writing's on the wall.
Okay.
Right. There's been a lot of outward pressure on the Fed to lower the rates. Obviously, no one loves where rates are. No one likes things being more expensive. But this is kind of the first time, and it's a benchmark because it's the first time in 20 or 30 years that there's been dissension, on the inside of the council. So I think it just shows that there's inward and outward pressure. And to me, signs point that we finally see a light at the end of the tunnel here.
Okay.
On the Fed actually lowering their funding rate at some point in the near future, possibly as early as September.
So what do you think, Sarah? Are we going to see these rate cuts in September? What's the predictions here?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if in September we did see a rate cut. And this would be like the first one, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the one that may be more in question would be because, people have been predicting there'll be two this year.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think the September one is likely. I'm not sold on certainty that the other one will happen.
Mm-hmm. To me, so it's always been a balancing act with the Fed, right? They've kept their rate high for a year or two now in hopes to quell inflation, essentially choke holding demand to try to keep inflation towards their 2% goal. They're not quite there. But the downside when you hold rates high for so long is that, especially for businesses, they have to cut costs somewhere. Right. And that comes at the expense of jobs. And that was the big news that we heard on Friday is that jobs aren't looking so great. And if the jobs number gets too bad, it's signs of a weakening economy, it's signs of recession. And so I think their hand is almost kind of getting forced here they can't keep seeking their inflation rate at such a cost to the rest of the economy. So I think they kind of have to make a move, whether it's September, October. Sarah, I don't disagree with you. I think it depends on how the market reacts to what they do and where the job reports go from there.
Yeah.
We just learned that the previous 2 jobs reports were apparently inaccurate. So hopefully we can get some accurate ones. And if those numbers start to look a little bit better, they may hold off and not do another one in 2025. But I do think that at this point they kind of have to do something.
Yeah, and my estimate or my like thinking here of like, yes, there's one, will there be 2, is not actually based off of anything other than just like what I am thinking could happen. So, you know, I know you're like much
your guess
more
is as good as the rest of ours,
right,
to be honest with you.
right.
So it's very day to day. It's very week to week. I mean, look, that was the first real kind of bad news from the jobs report that we've gotten in a while, and it caused consumer rates in one day to move more than we've seen all year. People went to bed on Friday, woke up on Monday, and their interest rate was 0.25% lower in some cases. So kudos to those buyers who have stuck with us and possibly went under contract this week. They just got a lower rate. But you can just see how temperamental things can be and how things can change at the drop of a hat. Now, with that being said, I don't want consumers to think that if the Fed lowers the rate in September, that all of a sudden interest rates are dropping 0.25% or 0.5%. There's so many other factors that go into consumer rate pricing. But the overarching point is if they do it, everybody's going to be a little bit relieved. Overall cost of spending will come down, cost of borrowing, and I think it's just a wait and see game from there.
So that's a really good point by both of you here, because I don't know that anyone knows what's going to happen. There's a lot of things that can go on between now and September. There's going to be, there's 42 days between now and the next meeting. So last year, if you remember in Jackson Hole, they had their big shifting of policy press conference. And if you look at what Jerome Powell said, he's not focused on housing here. And I think obviously the three of us are. He only mentioned housing once in the opening statement and 0 times in the press release that was out there. And the only time it really came up was a lot of questions. Like you saw people from CNBC and Fox Business and the Wall Street Journal ask about housing. And he kept talking about the labor market and inflation. So I know that's obviously the dual mandate that they have. I think he's going to finish the job here with these rate cuts. I mean, if you look at the CME group, they're pegging this at a 91.4% likelihood we see a rate cut in September. They do this predictor model. And then if you look at what's going to happen later, there's a 38.3% chance we see another 25 basis point cut and a 58.6% chance we end up between 375 and 400 at the December meeting. So, and this is where the rates are going to end up. So if you look at October and December, there is predictions here. We could see another 25 basis points in September and then a subsequent move in October, the October 29th meeting or the December 10th meeting. Now, when I look at this, you would think that they would wait for the jobs report to come out before they have the Federal Reserve meeting, because this jobs report comes out and the U.S. added 73,000 jobs in July, and that was below the Dow Jones estimate for a gain of 100,000. But that wasn't the story here. The story was the revision that was made. So June and May totals were revised sharply lower, down by 258,000 jobs from previously announced levels. This was the third time there was ever a revision this big. It was in 2009 and then last year. And if we all run businesses here, don't you think you'd want to wait for that report to come out before you make a decision about rate cuts? Because I would imagine they would have cut the rate had they seen that jobs report beforehand. Like, I don't understand the timing here.
Nor do I. I think that just based on the Fed's schedule, I do not believe there's a meeting in August.
No, they go to Jackson Hole.
Yeah. So
it must be nice.
That's the terrible part of the timing. Because if we had another meeting in a few weeks, I think we would see all this come to a head a lot sooner. But no, I don't disagree. Why 2 days after the Fed meeting do we get this terrible news? And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But
maybe they want it that way so that like they can be like, for whatever decision they make, if this is like not what was expected or like whatever, it can be like, oh, we didn't know. I don't know.
I mean, I don't think that's that far off, Sarah. I think it's clear
It's
that
like you can like kind of blame it on something else then if
Yeah.
it doesn't go how you hope it does.
It's
mean,
like a weatherman.
it's wild to me though, and like Heather Long, the chief economist at Navy Federal Credit Union, said this is a game-changing jobs report, and it shows what I think a lot of people have been feeling, that the labor market's a lot weaker than what it looks like. I think there's something to your theory here. This is not that far off, because a lot of people are accusing the Fed of playing politics here. You never see that. 1993 is the last time there's a dissenting opinion. Like, there's something to that.
It sounds like people knew that some of these reports were just flat out wrong.
It happened last year.
Yeah. So, again, I think that all the writing is now on the wall where they have to make a move. You know, they've kept their rates steady for 3 months in a row when jobs numbers were actually worse than we all thought it was. So, to me, that means they're going to have to drop their funding rate at least in September.
So you think there's going to be a September rate cut? What about the August press conference they have in Jackson Hole? Do you think there's going to be another signaling of policy shift there? Because I'm clear the Fed's at the point where they've got to do something now with this jobs report coming out. The president's all over them. There's a lot of things happening. I think there's I don't know how they move ahead and don't have a rate cut in September. Do you think they're gonna shift policy signals there?
So at least with interest rates and markets, they're always going to try to move in advance of what the Fed actually does. Now they have 2 months here where they get out ahead of this decision. I think that the jobs report last week was really telling. I think that whatever news comes out of Jackson Hole, which I imagine it will kind of hint to a policy shift, that might cause another pre-movement of the market. So we might see rates drop a little bit lower then. Don't quote me on it. But I think that by the time we get to September, if all of this news keeps going the way that it is, they're going to do something. And to be honest with you, interest rates, as far as we see in mortgages, will probably already be buffered that in. Yeah, baked in.
Interesting. Yeah, I tend to. I mean, I do think the pricing right now is ahead of what the Fed's going to do. Like, if we saw a rate cut, I don't know that rates would come down much more.
No, if it happened today, maybe. But like you said, they have that Jackson Hole summit in between now and then. So if they give some pre-indicators there, the market's going to move in advance, and that might lead to when they actually do cut the rate, we don't see a whole lot of movement then. But to me, that means that anyone who's in the market right now, you just picked a good time accidentally. You know, interest rates are essentially artificially lower than they were last week for no reason other than what we think is going to happen.
And maybe with less competition as a buyer than what you would have when they officially announce it. Like, the rate could be the same now, like, you know, leading up as it is then. But if it wasn't like officially announced, then maybe a little less competition.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big believer. You always want to be a buyer or a seller when there's not a lot of competition for you, whether there's not, I mean, August to me is such a great month because people are away. I mean, you've been at the office the past couple of days. I think it was like me and you and a couple other folks. Like, you were in there, but there's not a lot of people in there, and that's pretty normal during the month of August. So I do see the timing on this. I know, Sarah, you're a big believer you can time the market, right? That's your. But I think if you didn't, accidentally is a great word, Kyle. I think that's really smart. How much lower do you think rates can go? Because last week we saw, and I'm going to give the national numbers. Every bank is different. I'm not going to quote local bank numbers, but I know they hit the threshold of, they broke below 6.64%. I saw 6.57 on Mortgage News Daily yesterday, and obviously there's a lot of variables there. Do you think they go any lower? A lot of people are predicting like 6.3 to 6.4 by the end of the year. I was not a believer in that. All of a sudden, this looks a lot more viable now as we head into the fall with these revisions. Not so much the singular jobs report, but how much they were revised. And the same thing kind of happened last year.
Yeah, I agree with you. I wasn't expecting a whole lot for the rest of this year. You know, since January, they've been kicking this can down the road, and I just kind of lost confidence that a decision was ever actually going to be made or need to be made. This revision throws that all out the window. Okay. I think it's going to accelerate things. I think that there's a good chance if they lower in September and then they really look to lower again once or twice before December, there's a good chance we end this year in the low sixes, which from where I sit would be awesome.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome for everyone. I mean, selfishly, I would think that'd be great for it to happen. Yeah. So, I mean, what do you think, Sarah? Do you think we're going to see rates come down a little more? I mean, what's your prediction here? I'll give you guys some data on what some other folks are saying.
Yeah, I think that we're going to see them come down a tick. Like, I don't think it's going to be something wild. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's going to be some huge plummet. I think we're going to see them like come down a little bit. And then again, if there is another rate cut later in the year, obviously that's going to, affect things here. But I think it's going to be like slow and stable and steady the way that it's done. I don't think it's going to be these it's not going to be this like volatile like thing. And I do think that as like we've talked about this before, as the rates come down, competition comes back up. So it's really about monthly payment.
Yeah. And the Fed doesn't want it to drop significantly. That's
Right.
like the worst case scenario. We don't
Right.
want
I don't think that's good for the
2020
market.
happening
Yeah,
again.
no.
To be very
Throws
clear.
things into a tailspin. The only reason that I think we might actually see it now is just because they kind of got caught with their tail between their legs with this revision on the jobs report. So that might send things into a little bit of a spiral, but they're going to do their best to maintain it and keep it slow and steady. But we'll see.
So I'm gonna share some data with you here. So I mean, I think the 10-year obviously is a very important data point here. So the 10-year action was all on Friday. I mean, rates came down like instantly after this job report. I know you get quoted later in the day, but there was a waterfall drop from a high of 4.4 down to 4.21%. So if the 10-year falls a little lower, I mean, you get below 4%, I think that's where things could get pretty interesting. The mortgage spreads, I mean, they've improved this year. So if you don't know what a mortgage spread is, it's the difference between where mortgage rates are coming in and the 10-year yield. And with the dovish tone from the Fed and with more rate cuts, the spreads could slowly improve over time. I don't think it's going to be overnight. So, just for it, Logan Motoshami with Housing Wire, he hopes for like a 0.27 to 0.41 percent improvement in 2025, working from an average spread of 2.54% in 2024. We've gotten close. We haven't hit it. And if spreads were as bad as they were, meaning the spread was further apart, mortgage rates would be over 3/4 of a point higher right now than if we looked at 2023 levels. But if they were in their normal range, pre-pandemic, mortgage rates would be 0.53 to 0.73% lower. So I mean, then all of a sudden you're like 5.9, right, or 6. That would do a lot for the market. And historically, mortgage spreads have ranged from 1.6 to 1.8%. So I think that's the thing you really got to look at. I mean, what's your Kyle? You're in this business every day. You understand this a lot better than I do. What's your interpretation of the mortgage rate spread and what it would take for that to improve back to pre-pandemic levels? Because this has been, it's not even the 10-year, it's the spread has been the problem.
Yeah. To me, it's a lot about certainty and uncertainty.
Okay.
When that spread gets really wide, the mortgage market doesn't have a lot of certainty in what the future is, right? And what all the powers that be and all the factors are going to impact their industry and their rates in the future. So the more we see kind of consistency or a more positive outlook, I think the shorter those spreads become, and the closer that we can get to the actual 10-year, the better for all of us.
So what does this mean for buyers and sellers? So Sarah, you're talking about there's opportunity. You're talking to a client right now. They've been messing around in the market. They're on again, off again. For the people that are on the fence, what advice do you have for those folks, whether they're selling and looking to buy or just buying their first home?
I mean, to be honest with you, most of the people that I am working with right now, whether or not it's like lining up, buying within like listing theirs or just buying or just selling. I mean, it's the motivation is there, so it's about finding the right place. So I know like that doesn't quite like answer the question because I haven't had a ton, like people will ask me about rates. Rates are obviously something that are being like considered and factored in. But a lot of it has more to do, and this wouldn't be across the board for everybody. This is just for my like current situation. What I've kind of noticed is it's really about kind of finding the right place and putting the puzzle pieces together here to make things work for these different individuals. If it was, where there were a lot more conversations that I was having with people about this, or this was a bigger like trigger point, I think I would be running cost sheets at, some different scenarios, advising them to talk to a lender and just kind of letting them know that like rates are one piece of a puzzle, and kind of reiterating all of the different pieces that go into structuring an offer and what can we control, because there's only so much that you can control. Like the rate is the rate, like
Yep.
there's only so much that you can do about that. So focusing on what you can control.
Yeah.
So I think that's really smart. And I mean, a lot of the revisions from like Realtor.com and Zillow, transactions are going to be less than they were last year. And this is the lowest level since 1995. So, what I see happening here, I think, Sarah, you're absolutely right. Look at the controllables. What's right for you? That's the reason to move ahead. Kyle, I want to have you chime in about some options there. If rates are what's you're kind of holding you back, but looking at what the last year has been, I mean, this is very similar to me like 2008, 2009. Not that the market's crashing, but people are only transacting if they have to, right? And that's really what this is going to be about. So if you're an agent listening to this and you're not having high volume conversations, you're in a lot of trouble, because if you're focusing on like your 5 hot prospects, 3 or 4 of them could go sideways tomorrow, and that's a dangerous business model. And a lot of agents don't even understand like the options that are out there when it comes to financing. So one of the reasons we wanted to have Kyle on is we get these beautiful quotes from Kyle and Cross Country Mortgage every day, and they're super informative, because if you look at them, there's other options out there besides the market rate. So you want to talk about some of these products and how you educate folks. I don't think a lot of people know about what's out there, and some buyers are very hesitant to talk to a lender.
Yeah, for the buyers that are still very rate conscious, which I will say that's lessened over the past year. I think people have gotten semi comfortable with the idea that rates are what they are, but there's no doubt that a lower rate is going to help any individual. So we try to present all options to our clients. We have a ton of different programs in our portfolio and products that can help. So the 30-year fixed rate loan, that is kind of the crown jewel. That's what everyone knows. That's what everyone quotes. That's what everyone wants. But there are alternative options that can get you an inherently lower interest rate, especially for first-time buyers. We have the state, the GSEs, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, FHA have made a lot of efforts to make first-time buyer interest rates a little bit more affordable to get those feet in the door. So we have rates with the state of Pennsylvania that go into the 5s on a 30-year fixed, which is unheard of. FHA government financing inherently has rates that are about 0.5% or lower. And then we have alternative products, alternative amortization. So adjustable rate loans, they are back and not nearly as predatory as everyone remembers them from back in the early 2000s. They got a little bit of a stain on them, but we have some really great products with adjustable rates where they do have a fixed period rate of 3 to 5 to 7 to 10 to 15 years with a fixed rate in the beginning, subject to adjustment after that, but inherently lower rates for that first fixed period. So you can have 5 to 10 to 15 years with a nice low rate, maybe in the low 6s or 5s. And in this market, a lot of people are thinking, well, in 5 years, I might not be in the house, or I might refinance out of it. So it's a really good option. We have, if you're able to do a shorter term, 20-year loan, 15-year loan, 10-year loan, those are in the 5% right now. So the 30-year fix is not the end all. It's the one that everyone knows and got used to. But if you're rate sensitive and you're open to hearing other product options, we have a lot of routes that we can take you to get that monthly payment down.
So, what about the folks that don't know about the additional products? Because obviously, like jumbo pricing is typically less than a 30-year fix.
Correct.
And jumbo is not what it used to be. Like before, it's like, an $800,000, $900,000 home is not the same home it was 5 years ago.
Right. No, there's a lot of people going into jumbo loans, which for anyone that doesn't know, in most parts of the country, that's a loan amount, what you're borrowing, over $806,000. So they're very common now. And the underwriting on them has gotten much less strict. They work just the same as most conventional loans now. But for, where we've been over the past year, those loans have lower interest rates. They might have a rate that's 0.5% or more lower than a conforming rate. It doesn't always work like that historically, but for those buyers that are looking in those larger houses, more expensive houses, those loan products have become awesome to work with.
What about PHFA? I didn't know about this till I met your dad. And this
Yeah.
this is going back like 18, 19 years or so. So I don't think a lot of people even know what it means. And you've been doing this a long time. And I mean, those rates come in substantially. I mean, there's like
Yeah.
almost like a point spread in some cases.
Yeah, PHFA, the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency. So every state has an agency where they set state money aside to help spur the housing market. PHFA's is run incredibly well. We've actually been their number one lender for the last couple of years, and they just take normal loan products, FHA, conventional, VA, USDA, and they add some enhancements onto them to help affordability and to help buying power in that state. So the one that we use the most is called the Keystone Home Loan, and it's basically a state-funded, subsidized interest rate. So today, if you fit into that program, instead of a rate around 7%, you're getting a rate around, I think it's a 6.25 today.
Okay.
With an FHA buyer, you're at 5.875. So just for fitting into that program, you're getting a lower rate. We also use their programs. They have some of the best down payment assistance going.
Mm-hmm.
So they have zero interest second loans of up to 5% of your purchase price. So it's a vast amount of money to help buyers cut down on what's due at closing. That second loan is forgivable over a 10-year period. So every year that a buyer stays in that house, 10% of it is knocked off, and it's accruing no interest in the meantime. So we love PHFA. They're great to work with, and their programs are second to none if we have buyers that fit into them. And it's really qualifying for any program, any interest rate, whatever it might be. It's very subject to an individual buyer. So we really want to talk to these buyers, these clients, these potential purchasers, and see what options they have, and see, if they're open to hearing alternative programs and different products we might fit them into. I think they can get a really good deal and honestly make homeownership actually happen when they might have thought it couldn't.
I mean, I think this is when you bring that stuff to the table as an agent, and Sarah, feel free to chime in here. All of a sudden, you just set yourself apart from everybody else, because most consumers know nothing about real estate, especially like a first-time buyer, right? Like, think about the first home all of us bought, how little we knew. I mean, my wife still doesn't know anything. I mean, she just is like, well, tell me what to sign, and that's. But so when you bring that to the table, I'm clear you set yourself as apart as an agent. Sarah, have you had success bringing different loan options or like buying like all these just different options to the table?
Yeah, I mean, and I think for whatever reason, people tend to be hesitant about talking to mortgage, lenders and like mortgage
We're
people.
not that scary, I don't think.
Right. And they kind of like push it, they want to wait until they found the house. And it's like, listen, the sooner you talk to somebody, the better, because there could be I usually just present it as like, there could be programs out there that you could qualify for. They can look at different options and kind of like package things together. And things that either you thought were not going to be realistic could be, or like, I mean, I've seen it happen where people thought, oh, I'll have no issue getting qualified for this, or, oh, I'll be able to do this or that. And then there's something, and we've been searching for a long time, and then there's something that like pops up that makes it that they can't do what they thought they were going to do.
Or just as quickly.
Or as quickly. Yeah. So, which means that house is probably now not an option.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because different things take time to change when you're looking at these different, if there's something on your credit report, or like there's it could be anything. And the sooner you kind of talk to people and get information and kind of get your ducks in a row, the better. Because if you wait until you found the house, it might be too late.
Mm-hmm.
That's great advice, and if you don't know what you don't know, and I mean, a lot of times agents they ask this horrible question: "Hey, are you pre-approved?" Right? You ever hear people ask? Like, I cringe every time I hear that. You want to ask instead, like, has anyone taken the time to go over your financing options with you? Because you don't know what you don't know, and when there's grants like this in every state, you're absolutely right. Pennsylvania's really, really great with that. It enables you to bring solutions to the table, and you might turn a buyer into someone who didn't think they could buy a home, which at that point, I mean, think about what you're doing for that person. I mean, just from a long-term wealth perspective. So, and that's why it's important to have options when you see all this noise going on about rates and what's happening in the economy and what's Jerome Powell going to do and the jobs report and everything else, I'm pretty clear that one of the best things you can do is find a great lender to refer somebody to, and that's going to be a valuable asset in your business. It's going to be a valuable asset for your clients. It's going to help a whole lot of folks. So,
well, and it brings it right down to like the lender and to you. You don't have to try and read between the lines or look at some of these national headlines and interpret what that means. It brings it down to like, hey, this is my situation. What does this mean for me? What do I qualify for? What can I do? Because like when you hear some of these like broad things, how that impacts you is it could be like a million different ways, So like
or none at all.
Or none at all. Right. So like just speaking to somebody about your specific case and your specific situation gets answers for you. And you are the one that is, these are your numbers. So it like brings it all back to like what matters.
I mean, when you're able to do that, I mean, that's how you're really helping somebody. So despite all this noise that's out there, you look at, does it make sense for me to make a move right now? Right? Am I going to be able to live in the home the next 5 years? And can I afford the payment? And if you have that approach, likely you're going to be fine. I mean, when you analyze it that way, I don't think you're going to make a wrong term here. Kyle, you got any other advice to add in before we wrap up about the jobs report, the Fed meeting, what happens next with rates? It sounds like we're
I want to reiterate that regardless of where rates go, we just sat here and speculated for 10 minutes on what the Fed's going to do and what that means for interest rates. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It's hard to time the market. If a home purchase is something that you think you want to do, like Sarah and Tom said, get with professionals. Let us analyze your situation to you, find you the right product, and make you comfortable on all those things. Where's my monthly payment? How much money do I have to spend or can I spend? And from there, let's find the right house. And the market will be what it is. And hopefully, we'll be able to get you into something comfortable.
That's what makes winning real estate decisions, just and getting the right information, which is what we're talking about here. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about the deadliest roads to drive in Philadelphia. I want to get both of your takes on this, as well as an update on the SEPTA talks and Philadelphia traffic and its ranking in the U.S. Philadelphia is also named the most walkable city, which I found pretty interesting. We'll unpack all this here next on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
Mortgage service and great rates on your money.
Where's the article about the roads?
Mortgage America.
It's in the put in the sheet.
I got the one about 3 Mile Island.
Update the sheet, refresh it. I changed it.
Buyer, upsizing, downsizing, or just
it's a living document here.
Programs for you. We also have closing cost assistance programs and access to subsidized interest rates. Pre-approval is free, no costs or commitments. To learn more, visit our website at mymortgageamerica.com or give us a call at 610-439-8000. We always have a person available to take your call with around-the-clock human service. Purchase your home with the personalized, local service you find at Mortgage America.
Mortgage America's equal housing number, MLS 128501. When looking for a mortgage, you shouldn't have to sacrifice service to get a great rate. Visit the Sutera team at Cross Country Mortgage. We are your local Pennsylvania lending experts with loans that fit nearly any unique home buying situation, including first-time buyer options, low to no down payment options, and non-agency
Mortgage America?
Get a free pre-approval now at ccn.com and search for us.
I don't think so.
That's SUTERA.
Yes, we did all these, right?
Cross Country Mortgage. When it's time to move, we're right behind you.
The ones we have from 2021, I got to redo those too.
I'm Tom Toole of the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line.
I
If
know
you're
these
thinking of
roads.
becoming a real estate agent in the greater Philly area, I have a special
Broad Street.
offer for you. Our team did $165 million
I
in
used to drive this to
volume
my
in
grandmother's house.
2021, making us the number one RE/MAX
We
team
lived at
in
Broad Street
rental.
Garden. There's like no good way to go to like Abington.
1%
It's like
team
you have to go all the way up.
Our agents love us because we offer them a
309 is like in like
successful
Montgomery
career,
County.
a great life, and an unbeatable culture. Agents who've been with us
It's like
for at least
Ambler
a year
and Fort
average
Washington.
30
up
plus
that way.
sales. Even our brand new agents average 17 to 24 sales a
Price
year.
like
I wonder why that one's so
Proven
deadly.
systems and expert
And
training.
there's a lot of people that
We help you
die
set more appointments and sell more
based on
houses.
fatalities.
Now,
There's
here's
some
the
other
offer.
bad ones
If
too.
you
It's
don't have a
the-
real
Well,
estate
that's what we're gonna
license
talk
yet,
about,
we
like,
offer real estate
I think the
scholarships
Schuylkill
so you can get one for
Well,
free.
what's the one in the
Check
Northeast?
it out
Boulevard?
PowerShiftProgram.com.
They
Or visit the Tom Toole Sales Group.
Yeah, I thought that was the deadliest, but now they like installed all those traffic camera thingies and you just get tickets.
And remember the
Yeah,
real
yeah.
estate golden rule.
I
You
got
always get more when you work with Tom Toole. Have you considered a career
I got
in
the
real
most
estate?
bullshit
You want
Philadelphia
control
parking ticket. They
over
gave me a
your
ticket 4 minutes before the
income.
thing expired, and I had like the park
Call
mobile.
us today at 610
It said it doesn't expire for, and I sent them in, and they're like, "No, you still have the money." I'm like, "This is ridiculous!" Like,
join our team.
I got a red light camera ticket from in Philly.
talk about
Turning
this.
red
Good.
and red.
All right. Welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Tara Time, and we both work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. We've got Kyle Sutera here from Cross Country Mortgage. Kyle, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
You can find me at kyle.sutera@ccm.com.
All right, so he's an email guy, so he's going to respond to his emails.
That's right.
Unlike the real estate agents that told me earlier today, I don't check my voicemail, which made my head explode. I mean, can you imagine? Do you? I still can't get over this. Anyway,
No, if someone leaves me a voicemail or a text, I am getting back.
well, don't give your cell phone out here. That would not be
Wow.
what I would advise. We have thousands of listeners, Kyle, so you don't want to make sure that's happening. So we're going to be talking about the deadliest roads to drive in Philadelphia, Philadelphia's traffic ranking, SEPTA talks, and Philadelphia was voted the most walkable city in the U.S. This was a little surprising to me by USA Today for the third straight year. So I didn't even know this happened the first two. If you get some value out of this or you like what you hear, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to schedule a call with our team, specifically Sarah, to avoid these deadly roads, to find the best commuting spots, you can do that with the link in the comments. So, deadliest roads. This was a little surprising to me because I feel like as a real estate agent, I mean, we're like driving all over the place, right? So, the state roads are the deadliest to drive in Pennsylvania. There was 2 of them, and it was Route 611, which is Broad Street, and that goes up into Montgomery County, an average of 13 fatalities a year, and 309, which has 7.6 fatalities a year. So I was kind of surprised. These were and this was put together by the Barber Law Firm in Dallas. It's a study that they did about and they looked at the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's fatality analysis reporting system from 2018 to 2022. There were 65 deaths recorded from 61 fatal crashes on 611. Which and there was 20 in 2022, and on 309 there was a dozen fatal crashes that occurred in Bucks and Montgomery County. So, tell me your reaction to this, and then do you believe these are the deadliest? I mean, if you're measuring by fatalities, I guess that's one way to do it, but there's probably more than one thing to talk about here.
I wonder if those deaths are all like car on car, or like the people, like if the deaths are from people who were in their car, or if that would be hitting a pedestrian.
I mean, it could be both. I don't know.
I would have thought that like the turnpike.
Turnpike.
Just because like you're going at, I would think that if you get in an accident on the turnpike, has the potential to be more, not, I mean, I don't, like, you don't have to be going like 80 miles an hour to have a crash be fatal, and but I would think that would be one there on the list.
Broad Street doesn't surprise me, just because there's so much foot traffic and people do fly. But yeah, what one surprised me not being on there was the Boulevard in the Northeast.
Mm-hmm.
That road is
I thought that like
nightmare.
Yeah.
So I don't believe this report.
Okay.
I think this is nonsense. I just put this in the grok. Number 1 was Roosevelt Boulevard. The 11-mile stretch in the Northeast, particularly in Ronhurst, is the deadliest road in Pennsylvania. There was 26 fatal crashes and 30 deaths from 2015 to 2017, and 7 were alcohol-related fatalities. It's a 12-lane design. Have you ever, like, this thing is nuts, right? Like, it's 12.
When you've got all the different areas where like you're on like the inner loop and the outer loop, and you're like merging in or merging out, and then you've got it's a lot of lanes. And for whatever reason, I feel like whenever you're there, you're frustrated. So like,
it doesn't help.
You're just all like,
worked
ah!
out. Yeah, that is a problem. The intersections at Red Lion Road and Grant Avenue are ranked among the nation's most dangerous. Number 2, I-95, right? So this is heavy traffic, chaotic conditions, especially during rush hour. There were 16 deaths from 2015 to 2017. There's also a lot of like commercial vehicles there. There's on ramps, off ramps. I mean, if you're down by like the stadiums or like it's also really bad when you're going through like Center City and people are getting off like in that South Philly exit by like Christian Street or where it merges into 676. Like there's a lot of tough spots on I-95. That was ranked number 2. And they also said the I-76 exchange with the I-95 right by the stadiums. That is like the particular like deadly section there.
Well, you also probably have a higher likelihood there of having like intoxicated drivers.
Mm-hmm.
I hate driving out of the stadiums. I mean, it's horrible down there.
Yeah. And getting it out of the city on there, I don't disagree with 95.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, and 76.
Yeah. Well, 76 was number 3. And they had 10 crashes during the same period with 12 fatalities, narrow lanes, sharp curves, short ramps, heavy congestion. They get over 130,000 vehicles a day. Number 4 was Broad Street. So I think they kind of skipped over these major highways in this article. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious what the most dangerous ones are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt kind of silly reading. I'm like, this is really, I don't know. So now what this brings up is traffic in Philadelphia. So Sarah, I want, before we get into how the average commute time ranks in the greater Philadelphia area and in the metro area, how much does commute time factor into people's home searches when you're talking to them?
A good bit.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. Usually that's up there with, one of the top things, particularly if you are needing to get into the office every day or, that's definitely up there. And you have to figure out as you're, is it by like mile distance? Is it by amount of time? Because these can be very, depending on where you are, like you could be very close, but like you're just with traffic and stuff, it could be, that could knock it out. So figuring out kind of up front, like how quickly do you need to be able to get there and what times are you going? Because it can really vary.
Yeah. So what's like the average, like people say like ideal commute time? Do they ever give you like a number? Like where do I mean? And there is a range. I do agree with you there.
Definitely can vary. I would say typically within 30 minutes, and like 20 minutes is pretty common. Most people aren't expecting to get somewhere in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. 10 minutes. I mean, that's pretty close. So here's the average, and that's why I was asking this question. So if you look at where Philadelphia ranks, the average commute time is 28 minutes for people in the Philadelphia metro area, which I think that kind of makes sense. Like when you think about it, my commute to work's like 35 minutes if I'm going to the office. So it's kind of right in there. I'd imagine you're probably close to that. You're probably in the same boat.
Yep.
And that ranks 18th in the country. So 18th is not so bad when you figure we're the 5th or 6th largest metro area. This is according to Consumer Reports, and the congestion is a lot less than several Northeast cities where they, specifically mentioned Boston and New York, which are disasters for commuting. So that was pretty interesting to me. I think that's kind of normal, especially in the suburbs, because you look at where the hubs of like jobs are. Like there's a lot of jobs in like King of Prussia. There's not a lot of jobs in like Downingtown, as an example.
Right.
You know what I mean? Especially some of these more rural areas. You see Conshohockens, another hub. Obviously, places like that. So this congestion time was ranked. They calculated from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. using the Federal Highway Administration's Urban Congestion Report. And it's the average number of hours during specified times in which road sections are congested and speeds are less than 90% of the free flow speed. So you're going, like if it's a 45 mile an hour speed limit, you're going less than 40, basically. And that was ranked 21st. And it was more than an hour less than Washington, D.C., New York, and even Baltimore, which I was kind of surprised about. So I guess the traffic isn't that bad here. Maybe that's why people are okay with these kind of commutes. I mean, is this surprising to you? Because I was surprised that I think the traffic here is horrible.
I was going to say, it doesn't necessarily surprise me. I know it's bad in New York and D.C., but it just enforces the fact that I could never live there because I feel like our traffic's terrible. But apparently we're fine.
I feel like
I don't think we're fine, but
Well, I feel like it's interesting because I feel like there's people that know how to like get around it, you know, like the back roads or like I'll cut over to this one at this time and da 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 da. I feel like I typically just like put things in my GPS and go. But
there's a lot of people that do that.
There's a lot of people that embrace it too, and just throw on a podcast and don't let it bother them.
Dude, my wife doesn't know how to get around our neighborhood. She's like, "Oh, I got lost," and I'm like, "What do you mean? You're like it's." And
do you do to get to the office? Do you do highway or do you do like other roads?
Back roads, actually.
Yeah, I do back roads to get there, and then I do the highway home. I don't know why.
Little cruise.
Yeah, I just
cruise at the end of the day.
I do it like a little circle.
I think it depends on where you're. I don't really have the option to do that unless I'm on the other. Like if I'm a little further west, then I'll get on the highways, like the 202. But where I am, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, I think where you guys live, because you guys are pretty close, it's a different spot. Like it actually is like it's almost like probably a push. Or sometimes those back roads get really jammed.
Right.
Like Bryn Mawr Avenue gets very jammed if you're there. Like and I take that road pretty much every day. So
I feel like there's been a lot of construction there too.
Yeah, it goes down the one lane. There's some trees getting. I saw them earlier today. So yes, I'm very familiar. So I don't think the traffic here that's bad, but I do want to talk about this walkability. This was surprising to me. Philadelphia was ranked the #1 most walkable city for the 3rd year in a row. And I guess when you think about it, Center City from east to west is 2.4 miles from Penn's Landing to Schuylkill River Trail, and you can cross the city in about 50 minutes. And when I think of Center City, and it's expanded, but since I live down there, and we've all lived in Philadelphia, it was like Vine to South, and now it's like Girard to Washington.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, have you guys noticed a change in how people view the city?
Absolutely. Yeah. the neighborhoods are kind of blending a little bit or merging. I guess I get it. It's very thin, so that helps. I never really viewed it as a walkable city. I lived in Fairmount, and walking to Center City wasn't lovely.
Yeah.
But it was doable.
Yeah. I mean, I lived in Bella Vista, and we would not like all the time, but like we would sometimes, it wasn't like unheard of for us to walk to Center City.
Yeah, I was in the Loft District, also known as North Chinatown, which is what it really is. And I mean, we were kind of in the same boat. Like we were up by Spring Garden, so it would also depend. Like I remember vividly, like the Phillies are in the World Series. I'm like, I'm not taking a cab anymore. Right. It's going to take forever. I'm just going to walk down, and it was a lot closer. So it also depends on the weather and some other things.
Yeah.
Listen to these other cities that are ranked. I was kind of #2, Providence, Rhode Island. Like I don't even know how you compare Providence to Philadelphia.
Providence to Westchester.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, #3, Burlington, Vermont.
Same thing.
Yeah.
#4, Columbus, Ohio. This is the only one so far that even has like a sports franchise. Yeah. And they have a hockey team, so I don't even know if that counts. #5, Boston. Boston, I think, is actually downtown Boston's very walkable, but they have so many neighborhoods outside. I think that's where the problem is, because and they have like the rivers there and all that sort of stuff. I was surprised Boston wasn't higher. #6, San Francisco. 7, Chicago. 8, Savannah, Georgia. 9, Washington, D.C. 10, New York. I was really surprised to see some of these cities so much lower in there. So what do you think this means for like housing? Do people we talked about commutes. I think that's obviously a big mind. Do people look for walkability? I mean, I think the walkability, people look for that more in the suburbs than they do in the city. It's like a big thing now.
Yeah, I would say like in the suburbs, it's not uncommon for me to hear that people want like walkability to like the main street or like, whatever. In the city, I guess maybe from like, sometimes that factors more into like a safety standpoint for like, where you're trying to get when and whatnot. And then walkability means very different things to many different people.
That's true.
Like what is walkable,
Yeah. I like the stat for the city.
Yeah.
People coming in from out of state or looking to live here. Maybe that stat will drive them more towards the city than the suburbs for whatever reason. But, I already think we're situated in a nice pocket between New York and DC that our city already has a little bit of a draw for those kinds of people, and maybe the stat just helps boost it. But
I wonder if also the walkability comes into play here because you kind of have to like this. We don't have like a
good
sub.
subway.
We don't have a
Yeah.
good subway system that
It's
can
not
get
good,
you
yeah.
everywhere.
It's
Like
not
you,
good at all.
because what? There's like 2 lines, and so if you're not going somewhere off of those, you're probably not. You're
That's
not
true.
taking
Yeah.
it. So maybe by default, it is if they're doing by like how often people walk. Maybe they don't want to be walking, but they are.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think, I mean, and you know, the only time people really take this is if you're going to the suburbs or you're going to a game.
Yep.
And that's really it. I mean, otherwise, when we lived in San, we took cabs everywhere. That was just the way it was. So I do think there's more desire for walkability in the suburbs. And I think these people that say that stuff, they don't even walk anywhere. Like, I'm convinced. It's just like they like the idea of it. Right. And so, but I mean, we do live in a pretty, you know, it looks like, I mean, when you look at all this stuff, commuting's not horrible. Dangerous roads are at a minimum, and we've got a lot of opportunities for walkability. So that's all good stuff. So that should certainly help the market here. So we got one new listing and a couple open houses. Sarah, you ready to pull these things up and go over them?
Let's do it.
All right. So we got 2300 Highland. That's a new listing in Drexel Hill. I'll let you handle the open house on Brighton in Devon. So this property on Highland, it's a 3-bed, 1.5 bath, end unit row home in Drexel Hill. It's 1,296 square feet. Seller's going to be asking $279. It's at the end of a cul-de-sac. It's got a picket fence out front, and this is going to be open on Saturday and Sunday. Saturday 11 to 1, Sunday 12 to 2. Great opportunity in Drexel Hill if you want to be somewhere walkable. It's right by Upper Darby High School and Monsignor Bonner and State Road. A lot of good stuff there. So that's it's coming to the market. $279 asking price, open Saturday and Sunday. Sarah, you want to talk about Brighton here? Brighton Circle open this weekend?
Yep, we've got a open house here at Brighton Circle this weekend. It is going to be on Saturday, August 9th from 12 to 2. This is kind of set back at the end of a neighborhood here. It's a 5-bed, 4.5 bath, close to 4,000 foot detached single family home. You know, right here in Devon. And we will be, it'll be open for 2 hours. So definitely come and check it out.
Yeah, this is a pretty incredible property. It's right by Jenkins Arboretum. It's got a very open floor plan, built in the 80s, much different than what you normally get in Devon. So if you want an open floor plan and not a lot of maintenance, come check this place out. So that's all we got this week. You can email Kyle. It's kyle.sutera@ccm.com. You can follow Sarah at Ty_TyTime. On Instagram, you can follow me at TomToole3RD, and we'll be back next week on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.